The Holy Grail decoded. And he goes deeper than a black hole into today's headlines. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman on AM 640.
Well, the guy that calls space, this is A View from Space on AM 640, final segment tonight. After their initial success with the A-bomb, the physicists and wizards down at the secret Mesa, Los Alamos, became entranced with the medieval idea of an even more macabre weapon. They conceived of the H-bomb, a super weapon, 1,000 times more destructive than a Hiroshima killing machine, large enough to incinerate an entire population. With such possibilities, the top brass, the U.S. government, its NATO allies, debated the scientific feasibility, morality of constructing the ultimate Armageddon device. The hydrogen bomb, the H-bomb, lurking behind the scenes while the scientists debated the morality and ultimately the fate of their own souls, really, for unleashing such a weapon on humanity, was J. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientist, sorcerer behind the development of the A-bomb. Just like King Solomon, who dabbled in these areas 3,000 years ago, especially at his gold mine called Ophir. Opie, as he was known, Oppenheimer, was a linguist, poet, scholar of Sanskrit philosophy, while Solomon mastered the light of Atum, the Egyptian name for the hidden sun god. Opie, Oppenheimer, lifted the stone and mastered or split the hidden world from the atom. Both were enacting the archetype of Adam, the first pure knight to be initiated into the mysteries of the Grail in the holy original garden of creation, and the first man to be linked with the force the Egyptians would later call Aton. In a sense, Adam was the first to make the man-atom connection. Oppenheimer, the father of the A-bomb, the director of the modern Manhattan Project, may have followed in his footsteps. Interestingly, Time magazine called Opie a kind of intellectual Galahad. Now, isn't that obvious? The soft-speaking genius, as he was called, was a master of poetic grail speak, or innuendo. When asked to comment on the feasibility of the building of the H-bomb, he said, "I'm not sure the miserable thing will work, nor that it can be gotten to target, except by oxcart," he wrote. An oxcart was the mode of transportation of the Ark of the Covenant, by the way, the golden castic which housed the soul of the Jewish God and which is often equated with the Grail, and, of course, appeared to have great rays of light from it when it was energized. Who knows what was in that box? On November 1st, 1952, while scientists peered through specially smoked glasses on ships and planes 50 miles away, the first H-bomb exploded in the Marshall Islands, sending a blue and gray-green dust cloud 25 miles into the stratosphere. It would take at least 10 suns to equal the light of the explosion, wrote one guy. Back in America, the doomsday predictions began a couple of years later, June 29, 54. The Atomic Energy Commission refuses to renew the security clearance of J. Robert Oppenheimer. Like Nicholas Roerich, he was excommunicated from the New Grail Church of America. You can only wonder how different the world would be if the technicians at Los Alamos were spiritual artists rather than designers of mass killing machines. For centuries, the prophets have waited for the time when the new Camelot would be created. Arthur from Assur or Osiris would return. and the spiritual mysteries of the Grail revealed. What's the nature of these spiritual mysteries? What might we be missing out on? Well, the Grail is the focal point of the mystery of the Eucharist, the sacrament of the Lord's Supper, Holy Communion, the sacrifice of the Mass. Interestingly, the bread and wine used in the Eucharist are called the elements. The real bread and wine in the Eucharist provided the means to ignite the holy light, the fire within, the original fire of spiritual consciousness. The Babylonian god Ea, or Oannes, attired in his fish suit, holds the bread and a pail or grail. According to the Babylonians, he founded civilization on earth. He also featured in a scene on the right, standing in front of the pillar. The secret of the initiation for the Eucharistia is symbolized by the letter H. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, the sun worshipper's number, because it's the brightness of 1,000 suns when the hydrogen bomb explodes. It also, the H, represents a powerful spiritual ability. It's represented in the original Sumerian spelling of Adam's name, Adama, or Adama, with the H at the very end. The addition of this H is also prominent in the history of Abraham. When you first meet Abraham in the Hebrew Patriarch, he does not have the letter H in his name. The Bible goes on to make great pains to make the explicit point that after his initiation into the mysteries of the Grail by Melchizedek, Abram became the new and improved Abraham instead of Abram. An H has been added. Mystics claim the addition of the H signified Abraham's acquisition of the breath of God, or the soul of God, which once belonged to Adam. Simultaneously, his wife Sarah became Sarah with an H, Sarah, suggesting she also received this breath or soul. Could it be that Abraham and Sarah, also products of a man-Aton project similar to the ones undergone by Adam and Eve at one time? The possibility is incredibly thought-provoking, particularly when you couple it with the question of what exactly was the flash of light that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom was the home of Abraham's nephew Lot, whose wife was turned into a pillar of salt during the destruction of Sodom. Was it radiation from an atomic explosion that turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt? Or was something else going on there? In medical terms, the word saltation refers to a sudden genetic mutation. Is there something strange going on here? Is the pillar of salt a reference to Lot's wife undergoing the process of canonization or even sainthood? Another man who apparently received the H was Jesus, who was a priest after the order of Melchizedek. You know what I'm going to get to, don't you? It's common knowledge that Jesus is symbolized by a fish. Less well known is the fact that he's also symbolized by an 8, the number 8. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. The 8H connection may also explain why 8 is considered the spiritual number of Jesus, actually Lucifer. It also lends occult authority to the slang expression Jesus H. Christ, which is often used to emphasize terror or astonishment. Strange, isn't it, that the H would have to be added? But what's interesting, as any green Freemason, including FDR, would have observed in an intelligence briefing on the subject, H also stands for the Greek savior Helios, which means the sun, and was used by the Freemasons to indicate the two pillars of Solomon's temple, joined by a golden thread. There's those pillars again, twin pillars. An H has twin pillars. And the periodic table of elements begins with H, or hydrogen, the lightest of all substances, whose atomic number is 1. Webster's dictionary defines the H-bomb as an extremely destructive kind of atom bomb operating on the principles of atomic fusion, in which the atoms of a heavy isotope are fused into helium, named, of course, after the sun god Helios, under extraordinary intense heat and pressure created by an explosion of a nuclear fission unit in the bomb. The secret of the H-bomb may be more godlike than you realize. More Lucifer-like, I would say. The letter H of the Hebrews has been corrupted into Ch, CH, in both ancient and modern times. HRS was the solar fire, and like the sun, it meant also machinator, which means the material, light, or plastic formative power. The Grail conceals the mystery for transmuting, fashioning, or forming matter. CH and HRS are evident in words like Christ, Christianity, Krishna, the human incarnation of the Lord, Vishnu, Hindu God. There's more than what meets the eye, and more has been going on in history than we'll ever know. Some uncovered here tonight. Some lies very near in our future. This has been A View from Space on AM 640. Coast to coast next. I'm Space and I'm out.
This is Talk Radio, AM 640. Oakley in the morning.